Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock and it means it's time for another Talk Magic. And today I have the one and only Sam Fitton. Now this, a lot of people watch this channel from abroad. If you haven't heard of Sam, he is one of the, if not the most successful wedding magician in the UK. He is an incredible performer, an incredible business person. He teaches magicians, and there's a whole bunch of magicians that are super successful in this industry because of Sam. He's also a really nice guy, very well respected, and I'm super excited to have him on the channel. Sam,
thanks, man. That's one hell of a build-up. Feel quite emotional after that. I feel like accepting an Oscar at this point and just breaking into tears. But no, that's ace. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's really kind of you. Hello everyone. I'm Sam. I'm just a regular guy doing magic.
You do it so well, and what you do is you're an incredible performer, and we'll get into this. But you're one of the few magicians that has pretty much mastered the art of the business side of magic as well.
Yeah, I think I was fortunate that I came at magic from a more business angle. Don't get me wrong, I didn't have multi-million-pound businesses before I decided to do magic. If anything, I actually came from the opposite. A family business that my family had run for 30 years actually went under because the smoking ban came in and the business was a smoke extraction company. And overnight, that family business crumbled, and seeing that happen actually taught me a lot of very, very valuable lessons about how 1 minute you can have everything and the next minute you can have literally nothing. And so those lessons were, that was when I was like 18, just going to university and, using my own student loans to help my parents pay mortgages. And, it taught me a lot of very, very valuable lessons about how to run, I like to think now, a successful business. And without that, there is no way that I would be where I am now if I hadn't learned those lessons then, without a shadow of a doubt.
And I want to get into talking about the business side of magic. But before we do, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, let's just take a little bit of time to talk about your origin story. So obviously you said you had a family business, or your parents had a family business that went under. But when did you get into magic? When did that bug bite? Was it younger, or was it later on?
I think I probably have the weirdest origin story if of anyone you'll probably ever interview. And I know I've built that up, but it's because when I was 9 years old, I needed to have eye surgery to correct my vision. Basically, the muscles at the back of my eyes weren't functioning correctly, and they needed to remove my eyes. So to do that operation, this is absolutely true. I say this to people at gigs, and they look at me like I'm an alien, but it's true. So they had to remove my eyes and do the corrective surgery. It was about a 6-hour op. But to go through with it, my parents actually bribed me, obviously, because I'm a child. I'm 9 years old. And at the time, there was this huge toy shop in Manchester called Daisy and Tom's. It's sadly not there anymore, but it's fantastic. It was like a mini Hamleys, if you can imagine that, in Manchester. And they went into there and they said, Sam, because you're going through with this operation, you can do, you can have anything you want up to the value of £20. So we ran into this toy shop, obviously. I ran around like an idiot, looking for the best thing I could find for 20 quid, like any kid would. And there was a guy from the Magic Circle performing dynamic coins at a table at the back of this toy shop. And, I was quite a bright kid and I was baffled. I had absolutely no idea where those 10p's went, how they could change into 1p coins. I still actually have this very dynamic coins at home. It's very precious to me because it is very much the first trick I ever learned. It's the first trick that really inspired me. And so that's what I ended up buying. Obviously, part of the deal was that I couldn't open it until after surgery was completed. So unbeknownst to me, and my parents hadn't told me this, but following the operation, I wouldn't be able to see for about 2 weeks. That's because your eyes lock up and we won't get into the gruesome details, but they lock up. And it's like when you get something in your eye and you blink a few times, you're like, like this. Imagine someone taking your eyes out, right? So they properly lock up. And so about 3 or 4 hours after surgery, I started coming around from the anaesthetic, and the nurse is literally prizing my eyes open, physically trying to prise them open to obviously get me to confirm that I can see. And as she prizes my eyes open, and I kid you not, this is 100% true, the first thing I see is my dad behind the nurse banging the shell on the dynamic coins, trying to work out how this works, right? And then my eyes locked shut and I didn't see anything else for another 2 weeks. And that is my origin story. That is how I got madly inspired by magic, because for 2 weeks I sat and suffered waiting to learn how that trick worked.
Wow.
So, there you go.
That's incredible.
Mad, that, isn't it?
That's mad. And then obviously 9 years old, your eyesight's now back to you've learnt the dynamic coins.
Yep.
Did the bug bite, or was it just
totally?
Yeah. Okay. So the bug bit at that point.
Absolutely. I had a good friend at the time when I was in primary school who had the miniature version of Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic, and I still own that book. Own is a stretch. I basically never gave it him back. I think it's mine now after 30 years. So well, maybe not that long, 25 years, but he basically gave it me and said, look, you're way better at magic than I am. So that's what really set me off, was Mark Wilson's Complete Course. By the time I was leaving primary school, I'd already completely become absorbed in the Royal Road to Card Magic, which luckily was in my local library. So books, kids. So I basically had, by the time I got to high school, at the age of 11, 12, I was already pretty well versed in the double lift, triple lifts, glides, all of the core kind of foundationary material, if you will, that's inside Royal Road. And then by 14, 15, I was doing my first gigs. Yeah. Yeah.
And did you always gravitate, because obviously people know you as a close-up magician and parlor and stage, but did you always gravitate towards close-up when you were in school? Or because I speak to a lot of people that are like, you know what, I started doing kid shows. I can't imagine you as a kids entertainer. I don't respect. I just can't see that.
No, I can't see me as that either. You'd be amazed. I get like 3 or 4 inquiries a month to do kids parties, and I just go, have you been on my website? I mean, I'm from Manchester, and swearing is quite common up here in sentences, and you don't even notice you're doing it. And it's quite an endearing thing up in the north, I guess, whereas down south it's not quite as well regarded. However, I don't think I'd fit particularly well at children's parties, to be honest, despite getting the inquiries. Who knows? But to answer your question, yes, the close-up magic was always there. You know, I was really fortunate that I'd basically, around about the time I'd got really good at magic, and I say really good for an 11-year-old kid, I could just about hold a pack of poker-sized bicycle cards in my hand. I remember, it was a treat, ordering a pack of bicycle cards from back then, JB Magic or JBTV as it was, up in Blackpool, and then obviously Alakazam was new on the scene then. This is back in the days when Illusionist was a one-page website, which was just full of Brad Christian with way too much eyeliner, and it was basically a sales page of buy now, and it just so happened that was roughly the time when David Blaine came onto the scene, and that really catapulted magic. I mean, I stand by it. Without David Blaine, none of us would have careers. Certainly not in close-up magic. He paved the way for magicians for 20, 30, 40 years, and really, I think, my career ultimately is down to that huge popularity boom caused by him. So I just gravitated towards the cards. They were cheap, they're inexpensive. You can learn a lot of great acts and materials just with a pack of playing cards. And for a kid, they fit in your jacket pocket. And, it's funny because when you're at school, you wear blazers all the time. So I was learning how to deck switch at the age of 12 and 13. And I got pretty good at it, even at that age, because I'm using my school blazer. I'm getting used to wearing jackets, and really that really stood me in good stead. But and ultimately, it'll come as no surprise to anyone, being a ginger-haired kid that wore the world's thickest glasses. Like, honestly, my eyesight was terrible, and being a bit of a science geek, I wasn't exactly a babe magnet. So magic made me popular at school. It made me the magic kid, and ultimately that was a coping mechanism in a way. So there's a lot happened at that time. Kids go through a lot at that age anyway, but when you bounce into the fact that I serendipitously ended up learning magic, and then David Blaine came onto the scene at the same time, and then going through high school as a teenager, all those things collided, and this beautiful mess that I call me was created. That was that, really. Yeah.
Well, here's a question. You said you started doing gigs at the age of 15. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, you're then in a situation where you're probably making pretty good money for a 15-year-old. While all of your
Yeah.
mates are doing a paper round still,
Yeah.
you're probably making really good money.
Yeah.
You then said earlier on at 18, you went to university.
Yeah.
Was the plan, okay, so was the plan, I suppose, why did you go to university?
Good
Was
question.
the plan to become a full-time pro? Or did you think, having seen your parents' business suffer, did you think, well, you know what? I need to get some business skill. That's what, I'm going to take a step back to take a step forward. How did that whole period of your time pan out?
Yeah, you're hitting so many nails on the head there. So first off, the first gig I got was at a hotel called the Red Hall Hotel, which is in Ramsbottom. That's where I grew up. Same land as Harry Robson. So the owners of that hotel knew my parents and were like, "Oh, will he come in and do some tricks for the, the residents of the hotel, or during the restaurant one evening?" And obviously, I was absolutely cacking it, as everyone is on their first gig, let alone at the age of 14. But I did a whole night's work. So literally I was there at like 6 p.m. in an oversized black jacket, that absolutely drowned me, trousers that didn't fit, it was really, looking back, it was, quite the calamity. But, I walked away at like, 11 o'clock at night, my mum and dad picking me up, and I had 50 quid. And I remember thinking, £50 for a night of doing card tricks. This is insane. And I remember my dad's eyes when I got home and I showed him that I'd made 50 quid, and he was like, "Oh my God, you can actually make money doing that." And that was kind of my dad's attitude. He's like, "No, you can't make money. You can't make a living doing this." My mum was much more kind of receptive to the idea. However, being quite a smart kid and getting good GCSEs and then going on to get good A-levels, it was just expected that you became a lawyer or a doctor or an academic, or, you do something like that. And despite, at that age, I would, I'd done kind of acting classes as well as a young teenager, because my parents could see I was interested in that sort of thing. And my school didn't allow me to do drama because I wasn't one of the cool kids, because there was only a set number of people that could, do drama or whatever, and when you do your choices. And so I ended up doing the kind of acting classes. So they knew that I was really into it, and they really kind of, certainly my mum more so than my dad, really kind of encouraged it, because it helped round me and develop me as a person. But having seen what was happening at the time with my family and the difficulties with the business, it would have been a luxury that I couldn't afford to take, going straight into being a performer, I don't think. So going to university and borrowing 30 grand off the government at that point seemed like a more sensible option to get those foundations in place. And unbeknownst to me, opened up a lot of doors. I met a lot of amazing people when I was at university. I started at uni doing a biomed degree to aim to be a doctor, and then I ended up dropping that and doing just straight biology. So I graduated with a degree in biology, which is so useful right now. And when I left university, I joined the police. I spent a couple of years in the police. I worked for local government, and I just thought, you know what, this isn't the life I want. And that's when I decided, you know what, I love performing. I love people. I love having a laugh with people. Surely this will work. And that was it. So the age of 20, 21, 22, I decided to kind of start performing properly, as I would say. It wasn't just for a bottle of vodka from the local nightclub in exchange for doing some tricks on a night out. It was, it was actually getting paid decent money to do good events. But don't get me wrong, there was a few ropey ones that led up to that, and a few lessons learned, most definitely, which is actually in the inside cover of my book. I tell the story of the first wedding I ever performed at, which was an absolute nightmare, really. But all these things you learn from, and you develop and you grow, and that's that. So yeah, you've, like I say, you've hit so many nails on the head, and obviously a lot happened in those 3 years at university as well. So but I ended up here, so can't complain.
You said you were in the police, and from being in the police went into being a magician.
Yep.
I suppose the question is, did you just go one day, I'm done with this, I'm going to go full time? Or did you build up your gigs while you're in the police? And then when you got to a level, the reason I ask this, I get so many people asking that on the channel. I want to go full time. I've got a full-time job. Should I just jack it in? What did you do? How did you approach it?
Great question. I get asked this a lot as well. People that buy my book because they want to go professional. And so it's the twofold thing, actually. There's two parts to this. The first part is don't quit a day job if you have no gigs. And by gig, the number of gigs I always find is completely irrelevant as well. The number of gigs you have it means nothing. It's your income, it's your turnover. That's what matters. And realistically, then your profit, not your turnover. But it's how much money you're bringing in rather than how many gigs you have. So first, focus on your income and make sure you're getting a sustainable income. What I did actually was, when I left the police, I actually got a part-time job working for local government. I was working 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. And on the Thursdays and Fridays, when normally there could be gigs, that was when I would do my admin and perform in the evenings. Obviously Saturdays for weddings, Sundays, maybe sometimes. Obviously that's completely changed since COVID, and in recent years that's just gone out the window, but that was what it was. It was performing Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays, and it gave me time to do my admin. It also obviously made sure that I had a regular income while I was building up my reputation, my, getting known in the area, making connections, meeting other wedding suppliers, going to wedding fairs, blah, 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 all of that. And then eventually, it was actually my other half. She turned around to me and she said, I'm moving to Manchester, because at the time she was started her PhD at Lancaster University, which is where we were at the time. We were up in Lancaster. And she went, I'm going to move to Manchester because I've got no choice, because my tutor's moving to Manchester University. Shall we move to Manchester? And I thought, well, we're both from Manchester. I love Manchester. It's my hometown. Yeah, screw it. Let's do it. And at that point, that was quite risky and it was quite bold, because I was leaving an area where I had an established name, sort of client base. And I was moving to an area which, granted, had miles more people. I mean, Lancaster has a population of about 100,000 people, maybe a bit more now. Manchester has about 6 million or so. So, if you want to shoot fish, go where the fish are. If you want to catch fish, rather, go where the fish are. So obviously went to Manchester and thought, well, this is a great opportunity to rebrand, to change pricing structures, to reintroduce myself to people. And that's what I did. I jumped straight in. It wasn't the best move from a business perspective. It wasn't the smartest move, which is why I never recommend to anyone to just do that. Because I went 3 months soaking through all of my savings that I had at the time, living in overdrafts, worrying about how I was going to pay the rent next month. And then luckily in the January of 2014, I'd done a couple of wedding shows the previous December, and I got like 3 or 4 bookings come in, and I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, man alive. And then that January did more wedding shows, got more bookings, and then it just built up from there. And yeah, now I don't really look back at that time really too much, but I wasn't the smartest person at that point, and when I made that decision, and I can look back now and say, no, it wasn't a great idea. But if I hadn't have done it, would I now be a full-time professional? I don't know, because it's very, very hard to let go of that security of a regular wage, which is why a lot of advice I say to people, if you are a semi-professional and you want to go professional, so long as the income is there from your magic, just do it. Yeah. Do it. Cut ties. Do it. Because there's only you going to quit your job. No one's going to make that decision for you. You just have to do it. There will come a point and you've just got to do it. And if you don't, you don't, and you'll stay working in that job forever. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a part-time magician. But if you want to be a professional and you want what comes with that, the flexibility, and some people like to be able to say, I'm a full-time professional magician. I'm not really bothered by that, but I am a full-time professional magician. And I love that I am, because it gives me the flexibility that I want in my life. And so ultimately, if that's what you want, at some point, you just have to cut those ties to your day job.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. That's really, really good advice as well. And throughout this whole conversation, we've talked about weddings. Very, very specifically about weddings. Mm-hmm. Was it always a conscious decision to say, I'm going to enter the wedding market? Because you do other stuff. I know you do. Yeah. I know you do corporates, this and that and the other. Yeah. But everybody thinks of Sam Fitton as the ultimate wedding magician.
Oh, thanks.
They do. I've spoken to so many people. I suppose the question is, what made you gravitate towards that industry? And do you find that it affects, because your website is very wedding centric as well. Mm-hmm. Do you find that having a website that tailors you specifically to that industry can affect other industries that might hire a magician that maybe wouldn't because you're so well known as a wedding magician?
Good questions. So I think first off, I never intended to be a wedding magician. Which might come as a surprise to people, but essentially, I remember being about maybe 20 years old. I was just leaving university, and at the time, you know, the big names, I guess, in magic, and still big names actually. You know, you people like Noel Coulter, Alan Hudson, Rob James. You know, I was on their websites looking at them, going, "Wow, these guys have got it nailed. They're doing these blue chip companies. They're doing these corporate gigs. I want to be like them. I want to be like them." You know, so I bought suits and I looked like them. I had a website built that looked like theirs, and I thought, this is it. I've got this. Like, you know, I'm just gonna basically emulate them. That's what I'm gonna do. They seem to have found the magic bullet here, so I'm just gonna copy what they do essentially, and surely that will work. And it didn't. It didn't work. It completely backfired. I realised that I'd basically cloned somebody else, and it wasn't me. And it was a complete mismatch. You know, what I was telling people and the way I spoke to people and the way I performed wasn't in line with this image of the corporate magician. You know, it wasn't me. And it wasn't, and I knew that. I knew that. That was the weird thing. I knew I was doing that. But this little thing in your head goes, well, no, if you want to be successful, do what the successful people are doing. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And I think the penny only dropped a few years later when I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to build a website that looks like it's for me. I'm going to design things. I'm going to go and do, you know, because weddings were always looked down on. You know, well, I'm doing this corporate event and getting $2,000 for it. I don't care. I go to weddings and have a hell of a lot of fun, and I get paid what I consider to be really good money for having fun with people. Weddings have the best audiences you could ever want. It's full of people that are going to a specific place to have a good time. Like, you cannot get a better audience for a close-up entertainer, certainly, than a wedding. The audience is primed. They're there for a good time. You're just going to have fun. And I kind of fell into doing weddings accidentally. Thought, this is amazing. So much better than the corporate audiences that had been attracted to that previous sort of style of website and look that I was kind of emulating. And I thought, weddings are miles better. Why aren't I doing more weddings? And I just thought, you know, sod it. Sorry, you might have to believe that. Put it on your audience.
I don't do. It's fine.
And it could have been worse, to be honest. And I thought, I'm just gonna go for the weddings because I love them. I think they're great fun, and they're always happening. It's not like corporates where, like, you know, 2008. I remember, like, you know, I graduated into a recession, and corporate, you know, clients were phoning saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to have you now because we've got a jazz band instead." You know, they were going for safer options. They weren't booking magicians as readily. And I thought, you know, actually, I'm going to go for weddings because weddings will always continue to happen during a recession. And luckily, that's what happened. And so that's what I go into. And to answer your second question, is it of detriment to the corporate work? I think it's a double-edged sword. I think if you've never met me, I think if you've never seen me perform, then you can go onto my website and go, "Oh, this guy just does weddings." Maybe there are some clients out there that maybe think, well, maybe he's not the guy for us. But the number of corporate clients that I've obtained through doing weddings vastly outweighs, I like to think, than the number of people that might serendipitously land on my website and think this guy's not for us. So I've met some fantastic clients at weddings who have literally turned around and said, I got a corporate client once who came up to me at a wedding when I first met them, and he went, "I thought wedding magicians were shit." That's literally what he said to me, and I was like, some can be, I guess. I was like, but I'm not. You know, and that's now on my roller banners, actually, when I'm at wedding fairs. It's literally in small print underneath, it says, "And I'm not shit, promise." You know, and it makes people laugh. And, you know, and ultimately, like, that corporate client gives me, you know, 3-4 gigs a year, you know, and yeah, so I think all of these things, I don't think there is a magic way of building a website that's always going to appeal. You know, if you want to do corporates, build a corporate website. If you want to do weddings, build a wedding website. If you want to do kids, build a kids website. Don't try and put all of those together and expect that a client is just going to magically find themselves on the right page that sells you in the perfect way, because that's not going to happen. You need to very much tailor what you're doing to a specific audience. And that is, you know, same with YouTube, right? You've got a specific audience. The more specific your audience is, the bigger you can build that audience. And it's exactly the same in business, and certainly when I found with weddings, it's exactly the same thing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So here's the thing. So you moved to Manchester, struggled for a while, then went into the wedding, decided you were going to go into the wedding industry, and then proceeded to build up a huge reputation for yourself. You're obviously very entrepreneurial. I'm speaking to you now, and you're in your own office, which most just wouldn't even think of. It's a coffee shop or the kitchen at best for most of them.
I've only had it 2 months, Craig.
I'm but my question is, hugely successful. Why did you then decide to start teaching other magicians how to do the same thing? Because it could have been very easy to go, you know what, I've cracked this. I've made all of the mistakes in the world. I've moved to places when I shouldn't have. I've tried to emulate magicians, and that didn't work for me. I've made all of the mistakes. Why did you then go, you know what, I'm gonna help other people not make the same mistakes, and I'm gonna focus on that side of things? Because without being funny, you make a very good living as a performer. You know, just before the camera started rolling, you were like, I've got 5 gigs this week. I've got 4 open days. I'm all over the place.
It's a bit mad,
It can't be a money thing, because I mean, I know how much you charge for a wedding as well. So I mean, it's not like you're short of a quid or two. So why go down that route when, you know, what was the reasoning behind that?
It's a good question. Do you know what? Looking back, it was very much, I think, from the outset, I think I've always generally been quite altruistic, probably. You know, I've always liked helping people. It was part of the reason why I joined the police. You know, I've always liked being someone people can rely on, I guess, without this turning into a therapy session. So when I started thinking about, because the book came around quite, not serendipitously, but I'd always been making notes to myself. If I came up with a good idea and I was at a gig, if I was on the train, if I was on the bus, which is how I used to get to a lot of my gigs, by the way, because I've not driven for that long. You know, if I had an idea, I'd type it down in my phone, or I'd get my notebook out and I'd write it on back of playing cards. And so the book came around by me having to spend 2 years collating all of that information and then trying to remember it all. However, the actual idea for, you know, because I didn't write the book to make money. Anyone that has thought about it for more than 10 seconds will go, well, they're selling the book for 30 quid. It costs him 12 quid a book to get it printed. By the time he's posted it out, that's another 3-4 quid now. So this book, even if you take into account Stripe fees, all of that business side of it, I probably make about maybe 12 quid off each book that I sell, maybe. You know, so it was never done to make me money or to make me a millionaire. It was done to hopefully add to the huge array of amazing material that is already in the magic world, that focuses on cards and coins and technique and misdirection, and hopefully provide material that might even come close to being in the same realm as that, but from a more business perspective. Because when I was 16, 17 and thinking about it as a career option, there was nothing on the market that you could look. You couldn't see the business side of magic for love nor money. The internet was in its infancy then, really. Anyway, there wasn't a huge amount of content on YouTube. You know, that you couldn't just, you know, that didn't exist. And I thought, well, now I've got to the point where I'm making a good living. I've got a reputation. You know, I'm doing all right. Why not? Why not be the guy to do it? And, you know, I thought, well, at the end of the day, some people might love what I talk about. Some people might hate it. Some people might disagree. Doesn't matter, because what's in the book is what I do to run my business, and it's worked for me. So maybe it'll work for other people. And yeah, so I ran a wedding masterclass rather arrogantly named. It was what was it called? No, it wasn't called a wedding masterclass. It was called Sam Fitton's Next Level Wedding Seminar. Oh man, you do things and you look back and you think, oh no, what was I playing at? And that was in 2015, and about 7 people came to it. And I mean, yeah, the success those guys have had is amazing to see. You know, I think probably the name I'll drop in is Luke Howells. He's probably become probably the most successful. I would say he's the most successful wedding magician in the UK, without a shadow of a doubt, because he never stops working. Like, that guy just carries on. Like, you know, if he's got an hour free on a Sunday afternoon between 9 gigs, he'll go and do something in that hour. You know, he'll go and like, you know, but he came to that seminar, and at the time he was charging like I don't think you'll mind me saying this, but he was charging like 300 quid for 2 hours work. And I was like, mate, you need to double that. And he was like, no, it'll never work. I live in the Northeast, they'll never pay that. I went, they will. I said, they will, and you'll continue doing loads of work because you're a good performer. You just need to know your value, you need to know your worth. And he's gone on to win multiple national awards, and he's done very, very well for himself, and he's very busy. He's probably the busiest, I would say he's the busiest magician in the UK. He does so many weddings. But yeah, so he was one of the people on that course. And, you know, I get a great amount of pride out of seeing people using my material and doing really well with it. Because although I do create magic, I don't particularly sell magic tricks. I'm not known for that. But seeing people put into practice my business principles, or designing a roller banner in a way that I've told someone to design it, or setting up a wedding fair stand and seeing people share those on Instagram and getting people commenting on it, that's where I get my kicks. Like, you know, I like seeing other people doing well. And if you've got that infectious personality, if you've got the enthusiasm, I will, you know, I'm all about helping those people. So yeah, so that's why I wrote the book. Yeah.
And which is great to see, because a lot of magicians have that whole attitude of, well, no, I can't help anybody, they're my competition.
Yeah,
community is kind of weird, because we're all a community. We hang out at conventions together, but we are also competing against each other as well. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah,
really, to think about it like that.
I think absolutely, and I think this is something that my other half said to me years ago, and she was like, "You don't really have competition," and I thought, "Oh, that's sweet, thanks so much." And she goes, "Well, you don't, do you?" And I was like, "Well, do I? I do. Of course I do. There's loads of magicians in Manchester, like part-time magicians, full-time magicians." I was like, and at the time they were charging a lot less than I was as well, and there were some good names charging a lot less than I was, you know. And I thought, well, of course I have competition. And she was like, well, you've not, because they're not you. And I was like, oh, right. And well, yeah, I suppose, and that really got me thinking, because she's right. You know, ultimately a client is going to book me over you, over whoever's watching this, based on me as a person, not because I can do a better double lift. You know, like, because the client doesn't know that. The client doesn't understand that. The client doesn't understand magic. They don't care whether you can pull a lemon out from under a cup, or whether you can, you know, saw someone in half. They don't care. You know, they're booking you as an individual, as a person. And I think when that penny dropped, that was game changing for me, because it meant I didn't worry about the gigs I didn't get. It means I didn't worry about inquiries where people said, "Oh, you're too expensive." It's because they're not my clients. They're not the right people for me either. You know, would I have enjoyed that event had I have got it? Well, I don't know, would I? I don't know. I'll never know. But yeah, it was just that little, you know, golden nugget that, you know, Claire said to me. She was like, yeah, but you don't have competition. And it can be seen as quite an arrogant viewpoint sometimes. Oh, it's stupid to think you don't have competition. And yeah, of course, I'm well aware that there are other people doing magic, in inverted commas magic, you know, at events in Manchester that will have probably been booked rather than me. Maybe price point, personality, whatever it might be. Of course, I know there are other people, and I know there is competition in a business sense. But for me, I don't see other magicians as competition. You know, I'm meeting a magician that's just moved to Manchester on Monday, you know, for a coffee, because he reached out and said, "Hey, you're in Manchester. I know you do a lot of events. It'd be great to catch up, introduce myself." Great. I have got all the time in the world for anyone that has the balls to message somebody else who, you know, they would consider to be someone in the area who's doing well for themselves, and say, "Can we go for a coffee and a chat?" All the time in the world for those people, because they've reached out and they've made that connection. you know, and yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the coffee. So it'd be interesting, and yeah.
Do you find that, you know, you've written the book, you teach magicians how to be more successful? Do you find that that's helped you in your own business? You know, that you can say you're an author, you're an expert in the wedding industry, from a social proof point of view or from a digital footprint point of view. You think that's kind of helped as well?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, obviously there's the idea that if you become an author, then you can claim you're an author, and then you can do keynotes, and then you can there's just this chain of, you know, if you read the 101 on how to be a successful entrepreneur, that's basically the footprint, right? The blueprint, sorry. You know, you write a book, you come up with material, whether it's yours or wherever, you publish a book, and then you start selling a course on that book, and then you end up keynotes and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. So I think to a degree, yes, but I don't do keynotes really on my book. It's not the industry where you can do that. Don't get me wrong, I do the occasional magic lecture, and I've got a few lovely ones coming up where I'm booked for that. But I'm well aware that the average magic club doesn't really want to learn the business side of it. They want to learn some great card tricks. You know, it's quite a niche thing. But the people that do want to learn it are really, really interested in it, because it's very, very rare that someone is willing to just say, no, don't do that. That's a shit way of doing it. Do it this way instead. It's miles better, and you'll make miles more money. So yeah. I mean, from a social proof point of view, yeah. But if you go on my website, you won't see anywhere on my website where I've written that, you know, I've wrote a book that teaches other magicians how to be good magicians because I think I'm the best, because I don't think that's true. I don't think I am the best magician. And I think that's important. I think no matter how good, in inverted commas, other people might think you are, or your reputation in the industry, you know, you've got to stay grounded. Of course there's someone better than me. Of course there is. They're probably just not well known or whatever. I don't even consider myself to be well known. And I think staying humble is so important, because it's so easy, especially in the magic world, full of ego, loads of ego. But it's so important to stay grounded. And I think ultimately that's actually one thing that's helped me loads, is staying grounded. And it's hard to do, don't get me wrong, we've all got egos. Put me on a stage, trust me, you'll find out I've got an ego. You know, but I think from a business point of view, that ego has to be completely stripped away. Because in business, there's just no room for ego. There's no room for it. It's just going to get in your way. Yeah. So there you are. That's that really. So yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting because, yeah, don't get me wrong, you know, if someone asks, you know, oh yeah, I've seen you've written a book now, you know, it's not like I'm ashamed or I'm scared of telling people. I will say, oh yeah, I wrote a book on, you know, how to be a wedding magician, basically. And people are, oh, that's really interesting. You know, I'm not ashamed to tell people by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not something I scream and shout about from the rooftops. Because for me, I'm a performer. I always will be, first and foremost. No matter what I do, no matter what I create, no matter what tricks I sell, or books I write, or masterclasses online, or whatever, I'm a performer. That's how I make my living.
That was what I was going to ask you. You focus a lot on the business side of things. Mm-hmm. In order to be as successful as you are, and in order to have everything going on that you do, you have to focus on the business side of things.
Yeah.
Is magic still a hobby that you love? Do you still buy that that you're not going to do just because you want to know how it works?
Yeah.
Because I've spoken to people on the channel, and a lot of people go, you know what? I'm really focusing on building my business, and I'm finding that I'm not enjoying performing anymore. Have you had to sacrifice magic as a hobby in order to build it as a business? Because it can't be all about magic, or have you managed to find kind of a way to...
It's like a sweet spot. Yeah, there is absolutely a sweet spot. That comes with time. I think the truth is, at different points in the development of your business or in the growth of that business, as you all know, you have to focus on different things at different times. You know, this 6 months, I've got to focus on getting my shit together, quite frankly. I've got to get my admin sorted. I've got to get this lined up properly. I've got to get my diary sorted. You know, I can't run like this anymore, you know. And so don't get me wrong, you know, I've invested very heavily in trying out different CMS systems or client management software or whatever, or you know, that sort of stuff. You know, I've spent loads of money on that sort of stuff, and just to get my back end business operations running as slickly and as smoothly as possible, so that I can then begin to focus again on the magic, on the fun bits, as I call it, not the boring stuff, you know. And so, yeah, there is a sweet spot, but I think that comes with time, and you've got to set yourself up for the future. I think if you go at magic as a get rich quick scheme, you're probably going to fall flat on your face at some point. Because don't get me wrong, you can make good money very quickly, but if you want to be in the game for a long time, you have to set yourself up well, and you have to have good business practices in place that then allow you the opportunity to focus and do what you love. Because I love performing, I love magic. Yes, I've bought some ridiculous things at Blackpool. The other day I saw someone list something on secondhand magic, and I thought, oh my God, I remember when that was in stock like 8 years ago and I couldn't get hold of it. And this guy wanted 50 quid for it. I went, take my money. I want that box. In fact, where is it? I think it's behind me here. Yeah, see? It's this.
Oh yeah.
I have absolutely zero need for it. It's not in my act yet, and I just thought I want that prop, you know, and it was like 250 quid brand new, and this guy was selling for 50 quid, and I thought, I'm having that. I get, you know, so don't get me wrong, I get suckered in, obviously, to the latest, greatest things sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I didn't buy Jan Rander's new wallet. I was like, no, I'm not going to go there. You know, luckily I didn't do that. But, you know, I do love the toys. I love the gadgets. Of course I do. That's why I do magic. It's part of the reason, you know, I love dynamic coins. I love the thing that goes inside the thing without exposing it. You know, I love that. It's genius. It's beautiful. And the props are so elegantly made. And, you know, and that prop making side of it is just another world that I love as well. But, of course, yeah, you find that sweet spot. And it allows me now to focus back on my performance. And that's the real key. Is focusing on your performance, not the magic. The magic is easy. The magic takes care of itself. The performance, however, that always needs work. And that's what I think a lot of people sometimes don't separate, is magic and performance. Magic isn't always performance, but a performance is always magic.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, you can go to a theatre and watch Grease, the musical, say, and that feels magical. But it's a performance. Whereas you can go and see plenty of magic shows that are very much not performances, and I've sat through quite a few of those. And you know, so I love to focus on the performance side of it. How can I make this more fun for my audience? How can I have more impact? How can I make sure that they laugh at that moment, because it would make another great picture for the photographer? You know, and that's what I focus on. That's the bits of my act, because my actual act itself, the routine, the slights probably haven't changed in 10 years. If I'm honest, more than that. Shit, yeah. Since I was about 19, 20. I would say I'm doing the same close-up act I was doing when I was 20. A few little tweaks here and there. But unless something comes on the magic market that I think I can add that to my close-up set, my 7 minutes, if you will, if I can add that to my 7 minutes that's going to make that 7 minutes better, I will. But if something comes on the market that won't, I don't buy it. Because ultimately it's about making that 7 minutes as amazing as possible.
Again, great advice. So you did your first masterclass, not a masterclass, but you did your first
seminar,
seminar, not a masterclass, in 2015. But since then, you've continued to teach people all over the UK and further afield how to develop really strong businesses where you can make good money as a performer, right?
Yep.
So if people are watching this and they want to get involved in this now, how would you do that? Because obviously one thing that COVID's done for us is it's opened the world up, hasn't it?
Yep.
And I was speaking to Sean Dunn at Penguin Magic when I was over there, and he said to me, he was asking about wedding magic, because he said, hey, there's no wedding magic in America. And I was like, I know. And I said, you know what? Somebody is going to, because they have weddings over there, there's going to be somebody in the States that's going to make it popular, and it's going to explode. And that person is going to make a lot of money when you know. So
absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
How can people get involved with you? Because now the whole world can get access to you, and you've been doing this a very long time. You're very successful. How do people find out about working with you, and how does that look, and what different sort of things have you got going on?
Well, I mean, if anyone from Penguin's watching this, feel free to get in touch. I'd happily love a holiday in the States.
There you go. You like an absolute bitch, trust me.
Yeah, I can imagine. So if anyone is watching, you know where I am. The easiest thing for most people is if you head onto my website, it's samfitton.com/shop. That has the stuff on it that I sell to magicians, which realistically is my book, and then basically an online masterclass, which I created in early 2020, which now looking back was quite a good point to make something that was online based, which is a pure fluke. I'm not a mind reader, really, I guess. So the online wedding masterclass, which is basically the book, but in video format, because I had a lot of people who were either, and again, this came because a young man got in touch with me and said, I'm dyslexic, I find it hard to read. Is there going to be an audio version of your book? And I said, I'm afraid not. However, you've given me an idea. And that's why I made the Wedding Masterclass a video thing for one person. From that, I just thought, well, I might as well open it up to other people. And yeah, that's how it happened. So I shot it nicely in a place at the time where we were performing some shows, and we stuck it online. And when I went to Blackpool, I think I charged 50 quid for it. And it's like, again, like it's 50 quid. It's 3.5 hours of content-ish, I think, in total. Oh no, 35 videos. It's 2.5 hours of content. And it's basically my book in video format, except with all the stuff I'd learned between 2018 and 2020 put in there as well. And so if you want to buy that, you can actually buy the book and the thing and you get a discount. Or you can just have the online masterclass, which is delivered to you instantly. And you get instant access to it 24/7, and you can just stream it to your iPad or your laptop or your phone. Or you can obviously book me to come and do lectures, or I'll happily fly, like I say, to America and do a lecture there.
I think the Penguin should have you. I'll speak to Sean.
Cheers, man. Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, so do you do any magic? I'm like, no, I do no magic. Because that's one thing that, when I do lecture, and this is what I think blows people away most when I do lecture, is the first 7 minutes of my lecture is my act at weddings. I show people exactly what I'm doing at weddings. And you can tell people are like, this is what this guy does? Like, is this for real? Like, people can't often believe that A, I'm showing them, and B, that's what I do. And that I only do that. And that's what's quite funny. And, if I'm working at if it's venue that's suitable for it and the club size, then I'll literally gather everyone around. No, get off your seats. We're not in a theatre, right? This isn't how events work. If you're a close-up magician, I'm sorry, no one performs at a table, with everyone seated in theatre style doing close-up magic. No one does that. There's hardly any gigs out there like that. It doesn't happen. So instead, I want you all to stand up, come and join me, huddle round like we're at an event, okay? Like you're trying to watch the magician at an event, okay? Great. Now we need some obnoxiously loud string quartet music. So I get my speaker out and I play that on full volume. Right, now we're getting close to what's happening. Has anyone got a drink? Okay, go and get your drinks. Right, now hold a drink in your hand. Great. Now we're ready to go.
That's brilliant.
And that's how I start my lectures. And I do my 7-minute act, and everyone can see my entire act. And then I go down. Then I spend about 15 minutes explaining the psychology as to why I begin the way I begin. Because actually, the first 2-3 minutes is probably the most important 2-3 minutes you're ever going to spend with those people. And then I break it down on a psychological level why every element and every line is scripted. It's not off the cuff. Don't get me wrong, because it's well scripted and because it's been mastered over 15 years, I'm very quick-witted in a sense now, because I can afford to be, because everything is so well drilled into me. But I dive into why every single line in this script is important, and why it's said, and why certain gestures are made at certain points. That helps me build rapport very, very, very quickly with an audience. And that's how I start lectures. So if you want to book me for a lecture, you know where I am. I've got one coming up at the Magic Room. I say coming up, it's next March, so you got a while to wait for that one. So it's there's a couple of others in the pipeline, but I'm not allowed to talk about them yet. Sorry, tease. But right. You'll hear about it, Craig, obviously.
Yeah, I'm definitely going. I've never seen you lecture, and that sounds amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's a question, bit of a strange one, bit of left field. somebody, you obviously, in order to be as successful as you are, you care about your reputation, you care about how people see you, you know, and that's in every way, you know, when you go to wedding fairs, when you go to exhibitions, you know, you obviously care about that. Would you ever do something like Britain's Got Talent or something? Because obviously, you know, you're all about raising your profile, and you are a very good magician. You know, with the way that things are done these days, and you know, Russ Stevens being involved, it's no longer an assassination of magicians. You see a lot of magicians doing really well, unlike the old days. You know, just like Spellman and people like that. Would you ever consider? And not just about Britain's Got Talent, but would you ever consider doing something that would kind of thrust you into the public eye, or do you think that you don't?
I'm smiling because I've met the production team a number of times, and Barney, who's the producer at Thames, we've had a number of chats about things because I worked with an act a few years ago, and while I was setting up the prop on stage, he literally was sat on the Britain's Got Talent table, you know, the buzzer table, whatever they call it, the desk, I don't know, whatever they call it. He was sat on that with one of the runners, and at the time, can't remember who it was now, but it's Barney, and anyway, his right-hand man. And they were laughing at me because I was setting something up and I was just being funny because it's who I am. And they went, "We've had someone drop out. Do you fancy entering tonight?" And I went, "No, of course I'm not going to do it tonight." I was like, "You think I'm an idiot?" I was like, "I'm not that stupid. You can't just set me up that quickly." Anyway, they both started laughing. I was like, what am I going to do? I mean, I've got a pack of cards on me, that's it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could probably do a trick that would work in this room. And I could probably do half my act with just a pack of cards, actually. I was like, but I'm not going to enter tonight. You know, and they laughed and they went, "Well, if you ever fancy it, just let us know." And so I know I've got an invite there, and, you know, I've had a couple of people mention it in the past, and obviously I've known Russ for years. Used to work on, obviously, his stand at Blackpool for many, many years. Would I be keen? I think maybe going forward, perhaps. I've certainly may or may not have acts written already if they were to be keen. I'm smiling because I'm looking at it and it's behind the camera and you can't see it. So I do have something semi-ready to go. But, and I think this is my tip to anyone that goes on to Britain's Got Talent, don't do what you're not comfortable doing. If you're an act, if you're a professional act, do your act. Don't modify it. Don't change it for talent, for shows, for TV. Because if you change what you do for them, number one, it tells them that you can be changed. They can modify you. They push you around somewhat to a degree. You know, it tells them that you will bend over backwards for them. And number two, you will do an act that isn't as good as you can do that act, because you don't know it. And how many times have we seen magicians on Britain's Got Talent do tricks and we've thought, that's a weird trick, why have they done that one? And it's probably because it was a popular trick at the time, or a consultant has told them to do it, but you can tell that performer doesn't do that trick. You can tell, you can see it, because it's not ingrained, it's not part of who they are. Whereas then when an act does go on and does an act that they are so comfortable with, they knock it out of the park, absolutely smash it out of the park. You know, and I actually met up with Ben Hart not so long ago for a coffee. He was touring and he was in Manchester, and we had about a 3-hour long coffee, and I was chatting to him about it, and I was like, "Can I ask Ben? It's been really pissing me off. Why did you do the transposition with the ladies going across the stage?" You know, and he was like, "Well, it was a sacrifice really, because they needed something big on the stage." I was like, "Because that egg, we all know that the egg fan is just, the way Ben does it is absolutely knockout." I remember seeing him do it at the Fringe many years ago, and as I was leaving the theatre, regardless of all the clever trickery Ben did in that show and the brilliant performance, everyone was talking about the egg. Everyone was talking about that egg. Now, he could have gone on Britain's Got Talent and done that 2 minutes and completely annihilated them and left them with that moment, but opted to obviously have this stage production, because it was a sacrifice he had to make in order for TV land to be happy with the production. And sometimes those sacrifices have to be made. Even he knew that wasn't the right thing to do, of course, because it wasn't his act really. And you know, So that would be my tip to anyone that goes on any of the talent shows. And if I ever go on those talent shows, if any of those people end up ever watching this, I'm never going to modify my act to bend over to the wills of a TV production crew, unless it's impossible that it can be filmed. Because that's the difference, right? If it technically cannot be filmed, I understand. Yeah, of course we have to make changes, but never change who you are or your act because you're told it's not good enough, or you need to add more magic into it. You know, more magic, I think, has never been the problem for most magicians' acts. To quote Tommy, or paraphrase Tommy Wonder there. You know, but there you go.
I want to ask you two more questions.
Go on.
And the first question is, for anybody watching this that's really enjoyed the interview, and I'm sure everyone has, and they're struggling for work and they're wanting to be successful, and they're maybe not there when they are right now. If you could give somebody one piece of business advice to kickstart their journey to hopefully success, other than sign up for my course, what would that piece of advice be?
Make friends. Without a shadow of a doubt, make friends. Pick up the phone, speak to other wedding suppliers in your area, call them. Hey, are you bored like I am? Yeah, let's go for a coffee. Because how many wedding suppliers work on their own? How many other event planners work on their own, sat at their own kitchen tables, bored off their head, waiting for somebody else to give them that phone call? Yeah, it's what I did when I moved to Manchester. I thought, well, I'm moving to the big city now, I'll charge more. I put my price up. And I got on the phone and I spoke to DJs, photographers, bridal shops I went and visited, cake shops. I went and made friends. I went and introduced myself. I let them know that I existed. If they don't know you exist, you don't exist. So that would be my number one absolute golden top tip. Go out and make friends. Like, you know, go for a drink, you know. There's a Steve Jobs quote, which I absolutely love, which is like, forgive me if I don't get this 100% spot on, but it's something like, the best ideas don't happen in boardrooms, they happen in the corridors. And it's absolutely true. You know, you're not going to be at a wedding and you know, come up with the best thing ever. It's going to happen when you're in the pub with those wedding suppliers or with those magicians, and you're jamming, or you're chatting to other wedding suppliers, and they go, do you know what, you're a really good guy. Because people don't recommend people who are good at something. People recommend people who are good and are nice people. That's ultimately how you get recommendations. You don't just get recommended because you're good. If you're an arsehole, but you're amazing, you're not going to get the gig because you're still an arsehole. Whereas if you're a lovely guy or girl, and you you know, and you're amazing at what you do, then you're the whole package. How can they not recommend you? Yeah. So yeah, go out, make friends, but don't do it like, you know, don't be disingenuous about it. You know, go out and make friends because you want to make friends, because you want to get to know these people. You know, I recommend photographers, videographers, because sometimes I get booked before them, which is crazy. Who would book a magician over a photographer? Anyway, it's insane. But when that happens, the first thing I do is get out my list of photographers that I know who are recommending me, and I recommend them. You know, and it works both ways. It's a symbiotic relationship. Yes, that's the biology degree there. Yes. So yeah, that would be my absolute top tip. Make friends, pick up the phone, speak to people, go for pints, have a coffee, get to know the people in your area that ultimately make up the industry in your area, because that's how you're going to absolutely catapult your business.
That's great. We're basically talking networking, aren't we? We're basically
networking is, I think networking is a word that's fallen out of use, and probably quite rightly so, because we all have connotations of 90s businessmen with their squash rackets and you know, that was what networking, you know, that idea of, you know, power networking, you know, walking up to people, hi, I'm Sam, I do magic, here's a card, you know, it's got that horrible, antiquated now, overly salesy and forced environment. Yeah, you know, whereas I'm not talking about networking, I'm talking about having a pint with someone. If you don't drink, have an orange juice. Doesn't matter. You know, I'm talking about just going to a bar or a coffee shop and having a chat with someone. That's literally it. Building relationships, exactly. Relationships are the most important thing in business. Hands down, hands down. Without those, you don't have an income.
Totally agree. And on that, one thing I'll add is don't ever overlook somebody. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
never know what doors they can open. It's not who they are, it's who they know. You know, the best contract I ever had in my business came from somebody who was a cleaner.
Wow.
In a business. Her sister was married to, it doesn't really matter, but the point is, don't just do that assumptive thing. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't just think, well, you can't help me, so I'm not going to speak to you. You never know what doors they might open, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Be open to everything and anything. I mean, don't get me wrong. You have to be selective with you if you've only got a certain amount of time in a week. Yeah. And as we were talking about before this, I've totally screwed up this week because I've booked way too much in, and I'm absolutely shattered. And we're not even in May. So it's important to understand your own limitations. And sometimes I get it wrong. We all do. We're human. And it's important that you don't overlook anyone, but at the same time, you've got to make a judgment, haven't you? And yeah, but you're right. You're absolutely right. You know, you shouldn't overlook anyone because you never know who people are connected to. Ultimately, yeah. So there you go. Look at that.
Final question.
Love it. Go on.
Because, like you said, you are insanely busy this week. You know, I'm tired just thinking about.
I've got time, Craig, for you, obviously.
What's next? Because you know, I'm going to say something that I've said to a couple of people on this channel, but it's very pertinent to you, which is you've been incredibly successful. You've had an incredibly successful career. If you could take 95% of the magic community and say, this guy right here, if at the end of your career you can achieve the success he's got right now, they'd be like, yep, I'll have that. You know,
thank you.
Well, it's true. You've lectured. You know, you've got an incredible business. You're a published author. You know, you've done great, and you've only just got started. You're very young. What's next? And also, you can't get to where you've got to without being ambitious. So I know you're ambitious. I know you're entrepreneurial, and what you've achieved already is incredible.
Thanks, man.
Are there any goals that you want to hit, either from a business point of view or a magical point of view? Are we going to see you in the next Fitton doing your close-up act? Like, no. What is there that you want to do, or are you just happy to carry on doing what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. It really means a lot. That it makes me it chokes me up, stuff like that. Like, it really, really affects me because I never set out with those aspirations. And I think that's important. Like, I know there's a lot of business books that set goals, you know, and it sounds really bad, but I don't really set goals. And the reason why I don't set goals is because I like to be working on stuff now. I don't like to be looking in 5 years' time, I'm going to have this multi-million-pound empire and this is how I'm going to do it. I feel like I personally, anyway, I can get quite lost in those ideas, and all of a sudden I'm so busy focused on what's going to happen in 5 years' time that I'm forgetting what's happening now and enjoying now. And so if I want to be anywhere in 5 years' time, I mean, I would be more than content still making the living I'm making, performing at amazing weddings, if I'm being completely honest. You know, I was only having this chat yesterday with a photographer at a wedding open evening. It's like, if you'd have told 18-year-old Sam that he can make upwards of £50,000 a year just performing at weddings, doing the same 7-minute card act he's been doing for 20 years, I'd laugh in your face. It sounds ridiculous, but that's what I'm doing. But if I can continue to do that for the next 20 years, why wouldn't I want to look back on my life and go, God, I had great fun. I had great fun. And don't get me wrong, I am ambitious. I do have things that I'm working on, and you know, those of you that are at Blackpool have seen my latest crazy invention, which has been the bane of my life over the last few months, which is Solo. Which, if you've not seen it, by all means head to soloautomations.co.uk. But Solo is my new hands-free music queuing system, because I hate putting music into my shows for the sole reason that I hate controlling it. I love music in my shows, and I love, you know, I don't get me wrong, I love having music in my shows. Anyone that's seen my Edinburgh Fringe shows will know that there's pretty much music the whole way through, but it requires either a sound guy or girl, or a push button remote, or a next button. I thought, there's got to be an easier way of doing this, and so I invented it. And yeah, for those of you that saw it at Blackpool, I was demoing it, and you know, so I suppose I have ambition there. outside of performing magic.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. It's so it's a really cool thing. Oh, got it here. Look, here you go. This is it. This is solo, which I know doesn't look like anything, does it? But essentially, that sits in your top pocket as a performer, and it allows you to. It knows which trick you're about to perform, so it knows what music to play. So it means if at any point in your show you need to cut an act out, you can do it, and you don't have to skip tracks. It'll obviously because it knows what trick you're going to do next. So yeah, that's what it does.
That's how Skynet started, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Terminator's about to come back. If you find me executed in a few days, we know what happened. But hang on, no. If it's going to happen, it'll happen in this moment.
We're good.
No, we're good. Excellent. So there we go. So I suppose I am ambitious in other ways, and not many people know, but I design and build props for other performers. Aaron Calvert's probably the one that's had the most off me. I've written a lot of his mentalism shows. We've had 3 sellout Edinburgh Fringe shows that I've written and directed for him, and then I also build the props for the show. So if I could spin the camera around now, you would see basically a wall full of components and electronics and 3D printers and Arduinos, and so there's always something in my head that I'm like, well, actually I could build that, I could just make that, and that's what this is. This was made by me. I programmed it, I designed the circuitry, and and then spent thousands of pounds on having it made. But it's because I like to keep busy and I like to keep thinking, and as well as obviously the weddings and things like that. So I suppose I have ambitions. And more of a long-term goal maybe set in mind for solo, because there's nothing I would love more than to see a performer go on stage using solo, and just watch their show going, oh my God, the music works every time. And it works bang on the cue that they wanted it to work on. They're not having to signal like this to the sound guy every 10 seconds. It just works. To be able to go and see a theatre show, a magic show, and just see my product in action in their show invisibly, I think would be absolutely insane. And I imagine it's the same sort of kick that people like Yao Miranda get when they see people performing something absolutely knockout in a show and they go, I made that prop. I made that prop. No one else knows. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that no one else. It doesn't matter that the public don't know. It doesn't matter. I know. And that's probably one thing that I am really looking forward to. But so hopefully the Kickstarter will be online soon for that, because that's how we're going to do it. Because basically it costs so much money to make an electronic device. And although I'm doing not too bad at weddings, there comes a point where when your manufacturer goes, right, Sam, we're going to need about 50 grand. And you go, what now? So there comes points where you're like, looking at my house at the moment, because it's just literally just sold it, and I'm going, could I take 50 grand out now? And I'm like, so you do, I think, entrepreneurially, I think you do take a few risks sometimes, but I'm also not hopefully not that daft, but we'll see. Well, there you go, mate.
Is the Kickstarter happening?
So I'm hoping the Kickstarter will be online in mid-May. So it's actually, this has been a huge learning curve for me. I spent lockdown learning how to program, because I was like, well, I've got nothing else to do, like a lot of performers, what am I going to do? So I thought, well, I've always liked Arduinos and the idea of programming my own props, and I've always been quite good at kind of making and making electronics, but I thought actually programming microchips, that sounds cool. Incredibly geeky, but very cool. And now the stuff that I've made, like I've got a color match routine that I've created from scratch that's, it's actually on my desk behind me, actually, it's over there. Which uses a completely different system. The pens are completely examinable. There's no gaffs in the pens at all. And the pen pot can be held by the spectator as well. Just because you have ideas and I can make them, and that's what's really cool. And that's just how technology's gone, though, right? We now can all have 3D printers in our offices, and we can all design and make things, and that's really exciting, because it means that while I'm sat replying to an email about someone's wedding, I can actually hear something that I only had in my head 2 hours ago being printed behind me. And that's just the crazy world we live in now. So I actually design a lot of, I know Sylvia Scepter has recently, it was a few months ago now, she had a prop made by me, which was really cool. Can't tell you what it is, but it's just a really cool prop for an act that she's developed, which is phenomenal. It's a great idea. Wish I'd thought of it. And when she got in touch and was like, can you make this? I was like, absolutely I can. So it's a little remote control gizmo that allows her to do some very cool stuff. But so there's all these parts of my kind of brain that, they're not on my website. Why would I put that on my website? My wedding couples aren't interested in that. My corporate clients aren't interested in that. The only people interested are magicians. And ultimately, are they going to think Sam Fitton can do that? No, probably not. So what's the point? However, it is important to occasionally tell people that you are able to do those things and can help and can write and direct, multiple 5-star sellout Edinburgh Fringe shows, that you can, develop mentalism, because that's one thing that, you touched on earlier. Sorry, I'm like speaking for like, how long have we got? Like an hour? Because it's, it's one thing that, you mentioned, when does magic does it become a hobby? Do you lose the hobby? When I met Aaron Calvert, I realized that he was miles better at performing mentalism than I was. Man, I can't keep a straight face. I can't pretend to read someone's mind. What a load of crap. But he could, and he was really good at it. And I thought, have all my mentalism. My act is yours. If you want to use any of this, use it. But let me help you. Like, let me take what I've learned over the last 10 years and catapult you. And that's what we did. And we worked together. We wrote some bloody brilliant shows that did really well at the end. I think there was the most successful Edinburgh Fringe show ever written. And we got nearly 6,000 people came to see the show in 23 days, which for a free Fringe show at the Edinburgh Fringe is pretty mind-blowing. And I just gave it all to him. But mentalism then became sort of my hobby. I was writing mentalism routines for fun, like crossword puzzles. Oh, what can I write? What can I do? And I've very rarely shared them with anyone, because, they belong to Aaron. They're in Aaron's shows now. But yeah, that's one thing I absolutely love. So there you go. There you go, Craig. I should probably stop speaking at some point, but as you can tell, I could talk for hours.
No, this interview has been incredible. If people are watching this and they want a prop made, or they want to, they're planning on doing an Edinburgh Fringe and they want to speak to somebody that could help them, are they okay to reach out to you?
Absolutely. You can either, obviously, my email address is email@samfitton.com, or you can phone me. My number's on my website. Just drop me a message if you're working on something, or you have an idea for something, or you're writing a show and you're stuck and you need some help. I can, by all means, come on as a writer or consultant or whatever. It's what I did with Billy Reid when he recently did a show called The Carousel, which was just pre to lockdown. I literally reached out to Billy actually and said, Billy, this is a fantastic looking show. I would love to help with this. I don't expect a penny from you in this occasion, because what you're doing looks amazing. And Billy went, no, I'm paying you. So yeah. And when the show actually came off, it was fantastic. There was Billy in it, there was Mark James, there was Fraser in there as well, Fraser Stokes. And it was great show. And, and we had a lot of fun. But yeah, people feel free to get in touch. The one thing I would say about prop making is don't underestimate how much things cost to have made, especially now. And I've said this to people about solo. People keep going, how much is it going to be? How much is it going to be? And I'm like, do you know when Russia went into the Ukraine? Yeah, that doubled the price of what it's going to cost to make my product.
I'm friends with Guy Barrett.
Yeah.
And Guy was talking to me just the other day about how things have gone through the roof. Through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as Russia went into the Ukraine, the price of timber pretty much doubled. The price of components, electronic components, pretty much doubled. Lithium batteries, incredibly expensive now. We're talking in the last 12 months, the price to make solo, as in the core price for me as a manufacturer, if you will, has almost tripled in a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the difference. And we're not talking about something that costs £50 to have made. I'm talking about something that costs in excess of £300-400 to have made. So and then that's its raw materials. That's not it actually assembled. Like, then we've got to pay for an assembly production team, and then you've got to test it, and then you've got to, and it's insane. And this is what I mean. Some people, I think, don't appreciate about having things made is availability of components, parts, and props. But I'm more than willing to have the conversation with people. Just don't underestimate how much it actually costs. And I think most illusion builders out there, you'll know, sawing a lady in half can cost you $8,000, or a trisector or whatever illusion. Doesn't matter what it is. You've got loads of illusions. They cost a fortune, and it's because a lot of time and effort and skill goes into making them, as well as obviously the raw materials, and a lot of trial and error, especially if it's something brand new. Yeah. If it's something brand new that's never been done before, you could have 4 or 5 prototypes before you get to the working one. Yeah. So it's all of that needs to be factored in. But there you go. So there you go. Many strings to my bow, Craig. However, the audience, my intended audience, the wedding couples out there, only ever know about one thing, and that's I do weddings.
I've learned so much about it.
Thanks, man.
I really have that. I didn't even know. And genuinely, Sam, this has been an incredible interview.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you're too kind.
No, it really has. And anybody who's watching this that wants to catapult their business, people ask all the time, what should I do? Yeah, I think they need to go onto your site. They need to order your book, and then
thanks, Mum.
Sign up to your online course. I really do. Find out where you're lecturing. Go and check that out.
Thanks.
I really do.
I really appreciate that, mate. Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's on my website. People can go and find it. They can order it, do it all online, and and I post out the books. I've not got any staff. It's just me. I might have an office, Craig, but it's just 4 walls and me.
A load of components.
Yeah, and a lot of electronic friends that talk to me occasionally if I've had too much Coca-Cola, that is. Not actual Coke. Oh God, we've gone to a very dark place. Quick, cut now. Well, I don't need drugs in my life.
Although if you did need them, I mean, Manchester's the place to be.
yeah, it is. No, loads of people always say this to me, when it's like, how do you have so much energy? And I'm like, I have no idea, genuinely. I mean, I get home from gigs and I absolutely crash. I spend an hour just buzzing, like literally can't go to sleep. My mind is turned on, my body's tired, my mind is switched on, I just can't go to sleep, it drives my other half nuts. And then after about 45 minutes, it's like... Yeah, I'm just absolutely out cold. Actually, can I just do one shout out before we end, Craig?
Of course you can.
And that's to my very good friend Tom Peterson, who you may have heard was rushed in. Yeah, the amazing guy was rushed into emergency surgery a few weeks ago to have a brain tumor removed, and they found a cancerous tumor. So he's going to be starting chemotherapy and radiotherapy soon. And as a full-time performer, it's probably the most devastating diagnosis you could get, but the guy is a hero, and he's ploughing on, he's doing rehab, he's about to start chemo. There is a GoFundMe page set up, so my advice to anyone after this, even if you were planning on buying my book after this, maybe give 30 quid to Tom Peterson as well. Go onto his GoFundMe, send him 30 quid, because that money goes a long way in the American health system. He's one of the
guys in magic.
He's amazing.
Him are just a wonderful couple.
Yeah,
help absolutely anybody. Yeah. His act is hilarious.
He genuinely is amazing, and a very, very dear friend of mine. And I'm literally, I've said to him, look, as soon as you're out of this hospital, I'm on the first flight out, and no word of a lie, I will be there. Because it's just a lovely guy, and like you say, they'll do anything for anyone. I was flattered when he actually asked me to perform at his leaving do, when they left the UK to go back to America, and I met Tom at the Edinburgh Fringe. We were in the same venue, we had such a good time, and I had to point out that he'd missed the S out of his own name on his posters. It's like, this is really awkward, Tom, but I'm pretty sure your name's Peterson and not Petteron. And he was like, oh my God. Yeah, luckily it wasn't too late. But he's an absolutely amazing guy. So if you were planning on buying like a 10 quid trick, send it to someone who would really, really appreciate that. There is a Facebook page that's been set up called Amazing Guy Updates. So if you want to follow Tom's incredible journey that he'll be taking over the next few months, you can head on to there. There's a link to the GoFundMe page as well, where you can donate. But yeah, I would appreciate that.
I'll put a link down to the Facebook.
That would be mate.
Description.
That would be absolutely amazing. I really appreciate that. And yeah, but thank you to everyone who's listened, and thank you, Craig, for inviting me. I'm genuinely flattered. Like I say, I think, you know, staying humble and is you know, really important in magic, and so I never expected to even get asked to be on the show, let alone become a successful wedding magician.
You are, and everybody I speak to says how nice you are, how
thanks.
much of help you've been to them. Like, and you know, in this industry, you know, it's very difficult to have everybody like you. Trust me, I know that very
well. And we'll end it there.
That's all I got to say about that. But everybody seems to like you. So that's
thanks. I try. I'm sure there's someone that hates me somewhere.
I tried to find them. I couldn't find them anywhere.
And here they are. Yeah.
Please introduce.
You've brought my dad. Excellent. Yeah.
Brilliant. In all seriousness, Sam, you're a legend. You really are. I'm putting all the links down below. If anybody, wants to ask Sam a question, email him or leave a comment down below. I'm sure he'll see them. And if you see him at a convention, go over and say hi. He is one of the most friendly, helpful people that you will ever meet. Sam, one more time, seriously, mate, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
No problem. Guys, I will see you again with another video probably tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. See you again.